When night falls, the world changes. For police officers on the graveyard shift, darkness often reveals the unexplainable. The stories you're about to hear are not fiction. They're based on real cases, real discoveries that left even seasoned officers shaken. Imagine responding to a routine call, only to find something that blurs the line between reality and nightmare. Tonight, we'll delve into 6 of the most disturbing discoveries ever made by police. Each story is a chilling reminder. The most terrifying things are often hidden in plain sight. Turn down the lights and prepare yourself. What you are about to hear is true, and more frightening than any story a writer could invent. It started as a routine wellness check, the kind that social services performs countless times a day. A concerned neighbor hadn't seen Eleanor, a recluse, in weeks, and the overgrown lawn and unopened mail hinted at something amiss at Eleanor's quiet house. Officers Miller and Thompson were dispatched. They expected to find an elderly woman in need of help, perhaps a fall, or a medical emergency. They approached the house with a sense of duty, but also a touch of the mundane. Little did they know they were about to step into a world far removed from their everyday reality. Instead, after forcing the lock, they entered a home filled with hundreds of dolls, a suffocating presence that seemed to watch them from every corner. Porcelain, baby, antique, a collection spanning decades, perhaps even a century. Each doll a silent sentinel, guarding secrets unknown. All staring, their glassy eyes reflecting the officers' flashlights, all arranged with obsessive care, a meticulous order that bordered on the unsettling. Every room was a tableau, a carefully constructed scene, frozen in time. Dolls at the kitchen table, set with miniature plates and silverware as if expecting a guest. Dolls tucked into beds, under hand-stitched quilts, their tiny faces peeking out from beneath the covers. All dressed in real children's clothes, some old, faded and worn, some new, brightly colored and seemingly untouched. The officers couldn't shake the feeling that they were intruding on something deeply personal, something sacred, and something profoundly disturbing. The officers eventually found Eleanor deceased, in her bedroom, surrounded by her silent companions. But the real mystery, the true horror of the situation, was just beginning to unravel. Forensics, called to the scene, discovered a detail that sent shivers down their spines. Many dolls wore wigs made from real human hair. A search of the attic revealed a locked chest, its contents hinting at a dark obsession. Inside, they found envelopes, yellowed with age, each with a lock of hair, carefully preserved, and a child's name and date, meticulously handwritten on the front. The names didn't match any local missing children, past or present, a fact that only deepened the unease and fueled the growing sense of dread. The mystery surrounding the hair samples and the dolls deepened, deepening the unease that permeated the house. Was Eleanor a collector, a harmless eccentric with an unusual hobby, or was she something more sinister, something far more disturbing? Theories ranged from hairdresser, explaining the access to hair, to schoolteacher, perhaps collecting mementos from her students. But the secrecy, the sheer scale of the collection, and the unsettling nature of the hair samples suggested darker possibilities, a narrative far more twisted than anyone could have imagined. Despite extensive investigation, the origin of the hair and clothes was never definitively solved, leaving a lingering question mark hanging over the case. Eventually, the case closed, deemed unsolvable, another cold case file gathering dust in the archives. But the image of that house, hundreds of glassy eyes staring blankly ahead, remained etched in the minds of those who had witnessed it. The feel of real hair on porcelain, the uncanny realism of the dolls, haunted everyone who entered, a constant reminder of the unsettling mystery. The Dollhouse of Horrors became a silent testament to obsession, a chilling monument to a life lived in the shadows, and a chilling reminder of the secrets that can hide behind a neighbor's door, the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of the ordinary. In the heart of rural West Virginia, where dense forests stretch for miles and the echoes of civilization fade into whispers, 2 state troopers found themselves dispatched to a remote woodland area. They were responding to reports of illegal dumping, a blight on the otherwise pristine landscape. Little did they know, this routine investigation would soon lead them down a path far more unsettling than they could have ever imagined. As dusk began to paint the sky in hues of orange and purple, casting long, eerie shadows through the trees, the troopers stumbled upon something deeply disturbing: dolls hanging from tree branches. Not just a few, but dozens, then hundreds, an unsettling spectacle that transformed the serene forest into a macabre display. The officers exchanged uneasy glances, a sense of unease settling upon them. Each doll seemed to tell a story of neglect and decay, hanging limply from the branches in various states of disrepair. Some dolls had missing limbs, as if torn away by some unseen force. Others had eyes gouged out, leaving empty sockets that seemed to stare into the souls of those who dared to look upon them. Adding to the unsettling nature of the scene, a few wore tarnished trinkets or clutched faded photographs, hinting at forgotten lives and lost memories. The air grew heavy with an unnatural stillness, the silence broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. The atmosphere was oppressive, as if the very trees themselves were holding their breath. Then they noticed something even more disturbing. Pinned to one doll, with a rusty nail, was a handwritten note: "She cries no more." As they examined the other dolls, they discovered that many bore cryptic messages, scrawled in a hurried hand on scraps of paper. "He saw too much. Now they are quiet." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. Were these confessions of some unspeakable crime? Were they threats directed at someone unknown? Or were they simply the memorials of a disturbed mind? No one could say for sure. The officers meticulously documented the scene, taking photographs and collecting evidence, hoping to unravel the mystery behind this bizarre tableau. But despite their best efforts, the investigation ultimately led nowhere, leaving them with more questions than answers. Locals claimed ignorance, feigning surprise and offering no helpful information. A search of missing persons databases yielded no matches to the cryptic notes or the descriptions of the dolls. The dolls were eventually removed from the trees, the forest scrubbed clean of its unsettling decorations, but the legend of the hanging dolls persisted, whispered in hushed tones among the locals. For the troopers who had stumbled upon this bizarre scene, it was more than just a ghost story or a local legend. It was a real place of dread, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of the everyday world. It served as a constant reminder that darkness can take root anywhere, even in the most remote and seemingly peaceful places, leaving only a lingering sense of unease, unanswered questions, and a profound sense of fear. In a city apartment, a landlord called police to check on a missing tenant, Arthur. The apartment was eerily clean, almost empty. A rug concealed a hidden trapdoor. Below, a basement not on any blueprint stone walls covered in frantic scrawls, names, dates, phrases like "they're listening" and "can't get out." On a table, a reel-to-reel tape recorder and a stack of dated tapes. The officers played one. Static, then faint, desperate whispers, unintelligible but filled with terror. Every tape was the same hours of near silence broken by those chilling whispers. Audio experts couldn't decipher the words. Arthur was never found. The officers left with the memory of that suffocating basement, the scrawled walls, and the sound of whispers that seemed never meant to be heard. St. Jude's Hospital, abandoned for decades, was a magnet for trespassers. One night, police responded to reports of candlelight flickering in the basement morgue. Inside, they found a surreal scene: dozens of candles, fresh flowers on autopsy tables, and the room spotless amid the surrounding decay. It looked like a vigil, but for whom? The hospital had been empty for years. Someone had been tending the morgue, holding regular rituals. The officers found no one, no clues, just a sense of sacredness mixed with profound unease. The candles and flowers never returned, and the mystery was never solved. But the image of a glowing shrine for the forgotten dead haunted the officers, a silent ceremony for ghosts in a ruined place. The Delaware River, a winding waterway that separates states and whispers secrets to the wind. On a seemingly ordinary afternoon, two teenagers sought the quiet solace of its banks, hoping to reel in a fish or two. Little did they know, their peaceful fishing trip was about to take a dark and unexpected turn, leading them to uncover a chilling mystery hidden beneath the water's surface. Instead of a fish, their lines snagged on something heavy, something unnatural. With considerable effort, they pulled it to the surface, a battered suitcase, its seams sealed with layers of duct tape, bound with chains. Its weight suggested a grim cargo, hinting at a story far more sinister than they could have imagined. Understandably alarmed, the teenagers immediately contacted the authorities. Police arrived swiftly, their expressions grim as they assessed the situation. With careful precision, the forensics team began the arduous task of opening the suitcase, bracing themselves for the unknown horrors that lay within. The air crackled with tension as the duct tape was sliced away, revealing the gruesome truth: a dismembered body, a life tragically cut short. Another tragic John or Jane Doe, it seemed, destined to become a cold case statistic, a nameless victim lost in the vast sea of unsolved crimes. The initial assessment offered little hope. The dismemberment making identification seemed nearly impossible. The detectives knew they needed a break, a clue, anything to give this victim back their name and their story. But amidst the grim discovery, a glimmer of hope emerged. In a small, almost overlooked side pocket of the suitcase, forensics investigators found a diary, a personal journal tucked away as if desperately trying to remain hidden. Miraculously preserved from the ravages of the water and time, the diary's pages held the potential to unlock the mystery of the body in the suitcase. It was carefully placed into an evidence bag, its fragile pages holding the key to a life and a death. The diary belonged to a young woman, full of life and dreams, her smile captured in a photograph tucked within its pages. It was a stark contrast to the grim reality of her fate, a poignant reminder of the vibrant person she once was. Within its pages, she chronicled her life, her daily experiences, her hopes for the future, and the ordinary moments that made up her world. Her hopes for love, success, and happiness filled the early entries, painting a picture of a young woman with a bright future ahead of her. But as the pages turned, a darker narrative began to emerge, a growing fear of a controlling, violent man who had entered her life and slowly began to consume it. The final entries were frantic, filled with a desperate sense of urgency and a growing awareness of the danger she was in. She wrote of being trapped, isolated, and terrified, knowing that her life was in imminent danger, her words painting a chilling portrait of a woman living in fear. The last words, scrawled in a shaky hand, "He found this diary. God help me." The diary gave detectives enough to identify her, providing them with the crucial lead they needed to piece together the puzzle of her disappearance and death. And more importantly, it pointed them to a prime suspect, her ex-boyfriend, a man with a history of violence and control. Confronted with her own words, her documented fears and accusations, he finally confessed to the crime, his carefully constructed facade crumbling under the weight of her truth. The suitcase, a vessel of death, held not just her remains, but the story that ultimately brought her justice, a testament to the power of words and the enduring strength of the human spirit. A voice from the grave, refusing to be silenced, her diary became her legacy, ensuring that her story would be heard and that her killer would be brought to justice. In a quiet suburb, police investigated escalating acts of vandalism. Their search led to Martin, a reclusive neighbor. His house was spotless, but a hidden seam in a bedroom mirror revealed a secret room. Inside, hundreds of surveillance photos of neighbors, taken through windows and across yards. A wall-sized map detailed every house, family, schedule, and even pets. Each act of vandalism was a calculated punishment. Martin had been watching, documenting, and judging his neighbors for years. When confronted, he calmly explained his system. The discovery shattered the community's sense of safety. They'd lived next to a monster, unaware of the eyes watching from behind a mirror. The Dollhouse of Horrors, the forest of hanging dolls, the room behind the mirror. These cases remind us darkness can hide anywhere, behind a neighbor's door, deep in a forest, or in the house next door. Officers expecting routine calls instead found nightmares that would haunt them forever. The world is full of secrets, and sometimes the most terrifying are hiding in plain sight. Tonight, maybe check your locks one more time. Reality can be far stranger and more frightening than fiction. Thank you for joining me. If you have your own story, share it below. Stay safe and remember, the line between normal and nightmarish is thinner than you think.